Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. And that's Fission, F-I-S-S-I-O-N. And we call it that because we're now living in the Age of Fission, as many of the people who are living in St. Louis and in Porter Ranch now totally comprehend. So what I make an effort to do is introduce people to my listeners, healers and people that have alternative ideas on how to manage the anxiety and our health issues that we have. Again, I have brought on with us to share with us some information Mr. Brad Yates. He's an EFT consultant and teacher, and he has his own website, which I'll let him explain to you, which is the best place to get in touch with him. But thank you for joining us again, Brad. I'm very excited to have you with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Lonnie. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. So before we get into this, why don't you share with the listeners exactly what the name of your website is? Because I know that there was a little bit of conflict. If you just go bradyates.com, that is not you, correct?
That is not you, me, no. My website is tapwithbrad.com.
And you spell out with the whole thing.
Right.
Okay, good.
tapwithbrad.com.
Okay, great. And so we call this tapping because we are basically tapping on our heads, right?
Yeah, it's based on acupuncture. So for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, they've said there's a flow of energy through the body. And when the energy is flowing naturally, we experience our natural state of well-being. And when the energy gets disrupted in some way or blocked, then we don't feel so good. So in traditional acupuncture, they would stick needles in key points to stimulate this healthy flow of energy. We're actually just tapping with our fingertips on some of these same key points to stimulate that healthy flow of energy. Helps us feel better, helps us make better decisions, think more clearly, all kinds of good stuff.
Now, can you just tap on those points without doing a whole session? Does it help if you just pick a point and start tapping? If you're, say, sitting in an airplane and you're all freaked out but getting claustrophobic, does it help like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just if you can just pick one point and be tapping it without saying anything, and it will start to relax you. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have the sympathetic nervous system when we experience a threat, we see some sort of challenge, and we think, oh no, we're in danger, and we start to, our heart starts pounding, our adrenaline and cortisol start flowing. And then we have the parasympathetic nervous system when we realize, okay, everything's okay, I can calm down now, and I can think more clearly, more creatively. So the tapping helps to trigger that and helps us calm down much more quickly. It's the greatest form of stress relief.
So why don't you explain to everyone where the tapping points are? And I want to, when you're done, I have a question to ask you about that. So why don't you explain where the tapping points are?
Okay, so the major points that we use, and there are acupuncture points all over the body, and you'll find in different methodologies people use different points. The points that a lot of us use is the first point is on the side of the hand. We call the karate chop point, and that's where we usually start off, right between the right on the edge of the hand. And we just tap with 2 fingertips. The next point we tap is the eyebrow point, and it's right at the beginning of the eyebrow, just about the center of the face.
Doesn't matter which side of the body.
Yeah, the meridians run up and down both sides of the body, so you can tap on either side, and a lot of people tap both points at the same time.
Okay.
So great question. You can tap with either hand. I generally use my dominant hand, but I'll switch back and forth, and a lot of times I'll tap both sides at the same time. Next point we'll tap is the side of the eye. So you follow your eyebrow out to the outside corner of the eye socket and tap right there. And we usually tap between 5 and 10 times. When I'm doing a round, if I say a phrase that takes a little bit longer, then we might find that we're tapping on a point, 20 times. It's okay. It's not like an exact science of, it has to be exactly between 5 and 10 times or it doesn't work.
Right.
And as we were saying earlier, you could just tap one particular point. There are definitely times that I've been drawn to just tap one point, and I just get an intuitive feeling of just hang out on this one point.
Okay.
So next point is right under the eye. So following the edge of the eye socket to right under the middle of the eye, just above the cheek, and tap right there. Next point is right under the nose, just between the nose and the upper lip. And then just below the lower lip, right at the top of the chin. Next point is the collarbone point, and if you feel where your collarbones just about come together, there's a little U shape at the base of your throat. And if you make a fist and tap over that area, right where the collarbones just about come together, that'll work. Next point is under the arm. It's about 4 inches below the armpit. It's right about bra strap level, but I'm sure even the guys listening can figure out where that one is. And the last point we're going to tap is the top of the head. And I just take all my fingertips and just tap in little circles around the crown of the head.
Okay. Now, that's the other thing I wanted to ask you. Are there other points? Because I saw this tapping video with a woman who was tapping. This was an interesting thing. I asked her right before we got on the air. She did a tapping video about thyroid. The reason I'm interested in that is because radiation, the cesium-137, directly affects our thyroid. So now we're seeing an increase in thyroid problems and issues where people's thyroids are just not functioning like they used to. So she did this tapping video. It was quite interesting, the whole thing, because it wasn't just about, part of the issue when you're dealing with thyroid is you have to eliminate a whole bunch of food that we consider normal, right? Like you have to eliminate wheat, you have to eliminate soy. There's a lot of things you can't eat. And so we're sort of inclined to do it. There's a lot of anger towards ourselves for not being able to give up these simple foods. But she tapped underneath her, it was kind of weird. She said tap on the side of your ribs. So she tapped on both sides of her ribs.
Yeah, that's the under the breast point. Is that where she's tapping right under her breast?
No, it was like on the side of her body.
Oh, the under the arm. Sounds like the underarm point.
Oh, maybe.
Below the armpit.
Well, what she did with the under the armpit was she wrapped both of her arms around her armpits and tapped, and then she did the ribs. She tapped on her ribs. So I thought that was an interesting point, that someone must have trained her to do that, because you don't just think of that one.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, there are hundreds of meridian points all around the body.
Okay.
And that if you ever look at a map of an acupuncturist map of the body, there's
right.
all these points. So different people find that they find it effective to use different points. I think it has. There's a lot of reasons why people use different points, but
right.
We found that the points that I've just explained.
Are the primary. Those are the ones that I've known about. And they have actually been. I think I learned tapping in 2009, and it definitely transformed a lot of things in my personal life. So this is one of the reasons why I feel like now, especially, we're being bombarded with anxiety every day. It's all, we live in an anxiety culture, and tapping helps you not buy into the line of crap that we're expected to swallow. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
so,
every day the media is telling you, be afraid.
Right. And the world's going to collapse, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like especially living in California and on the West Coast, we have these earthquake faults. I mean, we live with the constant threat of anxiety living on the West Coast because of the earthquake, the seismic act. I mean, check out the people in Porter Ranch and the people in St. Louis. They have had to learn to cope with the anxiety of living right next door to a nuclear dump site, essentially.
So I'm going to challenge that. We are compelled to live in a constant state of anxiety. Some people choose to live in a constant state of anxiety. It isn't necessary.
Right. That's
the thing is that because people will say be afraid, but the anxiety, for one, we're responding to a threat that may or may not be there with certain things like the earthquakes. They don't happen that often. So,
and we don't know when it's going to. That's the issue. Is like, we know a big one's coming, but frankly, it could be another 100 years.
Yeah, we don't know. So to have our body in a hyper vigilant state of anxiety is counterproductive.
Right.
It doesn't benefit, but it's not, and we don't do it because we're bad or stupid. We're just, I'm going to encourage folks, while you're listening to this, you can even start relaxing. Now, a lot of times I'll just tap the collarbone point. That's often a very key point for a lot of people. So like I said, you can just take your fist and tap right over where the collarbones come together. Maybe even throughout this interview. And just allow yourself to relax, especially if you hear something that scares you. But I encourage people, if you must read the news, and sometimes we don't need to, a lot of people read a lot more than they need to know because they feel like they need to be informed, but they're informing themselves of things that they have they can't affect, that don't necessarily affect them. It just stimulates anxiety. So don't go looking for anxiety. But when you do put yourself in that situation, when you're reading the news or watching the news, watching the political campaigns, I would encourage you to tap, because especially during the political campaigns, they're going to be trying to stimulate negative emotions in you because it makes you easier to manipulate. The more we're in a state of fear and anxiety, the more our thinking goes from the creative, clever prefrontal cortex to the defensive midbrain. And someone says, jump, we go, okay. Vote for me, okay.
Right.
So
it's kind of like the Zika virus they have going on. I actually have been really, I actually did do some tapping on this because I think that Zika virus is a cover-up for the uranium poisoning that's happening around the world. And I think, there's a lot of things that people and this is what, that fine line, Brad, between staying informed and not being bothered by fear-motivated anxiety. Like, for me, as soon as I heard about that Zika virus being in Brazil, I went to the internet and I put the name of that town in and did some research and discovered that they started doing uranium mining in that town. The reason I did that is because that disease is a signature hallmark disease of uranium trailing poisoning that happens in almost every single town where they are processing uranium. And so I went, wow, that's kind of a weird, and I just Googled it to see what was popping up, and guess what? There's a new uranium mine, and now we're seeing these deformed babies. And then I looked into how did that study get started? Who sponsored it? And it was the UN. And at the UN, the International Atomic Energy Agency has authority over the World Health Organization. So we're not allowed to see their scientific studies, but my guess would be the IAEA told the World Health Organization, figure out why we have this disease there, but you can't look at your radiation. That's kind of the world we live in. And that's when I did some tapping. Yeah. Really, these rats, seriously, they're scaring all these pregnant women into taking these vaccines that are going to be pointless. We have, the hard reality is we can't change what the radiation is doing to our physical bodies, but that's actually not true, because I think we can bolster our immune systems up through tapping and through nutrition.
Yes, our mental health affects our physical well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot be afraid enough to make our immune systems better.
Right.
Fear and anxiety compromise our immune system.
Right.
So it's not a bad idea to be informed about things that do affect you. You know, if there's an epidemic, I wouldn't say, oh, just ignore it and tap.
Right.
You know, if you need to wear a mask, wash your hands, do these things that that protect your health. Eat right. You know, it's like you don't need to be worried. You know, we don't have to walk around all the time going, oh my goodness, there's high fructose corn syrup out there.
Right.
No, you just know, hey, that's not good for me. I'm not going to eat foods that have HFC, high fructose corn syrup in it.
Yeah, HFS. I get you. Well, there's a phrase I used to tell my kids when they were young. Worry's like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere.
Exactly.
It occupies your time. It gives people. Now, that's the other thing that
There are better ways to occupy your time, though.
Yes, but this is one of the things, I find this to be one of the resistances about when I attempt to share tapping with people. I find that most people that complain or have body aches or whatever it is, they actually choose to, when I attempt to share with them information that might help them overcome that hurdle. This is one of the things I've had to learn in my life because I tend to be a fixer. This is why I do tax resolution, Brad, because I'm a fixer, right? So I actually share a lot of information with people very frequently. And I find that unless a person is really says, gee, I'd really be interested in that, they will not do it until they really hit the wall. But I still share because I want them to have that information the day they hit the wall.
Yeah. And that's it. Is you put it out there, you make it available, you make it known. You know, I have all these videos on YouTube. I can't force anyone to watch them, but they're there if people are ready. And
those videos on YouTube are really awesome. They've really been really tremendously helpful to me. In fact, there's very many. This is how when I talk to people about YouTube, because I love your videos. And when I came to find you about, I guess it was frankly, right after I got involved in the Fukushima fight, I needed to find some tapping. Because when I became aware of how monumentally catastrophic the nuclear volcano is in Fukushima, my anxiety level, I was probably at a 3 or a 4 on a daily level basis. It went up to like 11 or 12. I was like, first thing I did was wake up and try to find the news about Fukushima.
Yeah.
Seriously. So I found your videos. There was several videos that you did about self-esteem, and that's where I thought, well, the reason I'm having these anxieties is my sense of self-esteem is like, I'm so I can't do anything about this. That's where I went,
Yeah. Definitely when we feel loss of control, we can freak out. And it's also a protection mechanism. So one of the things is, as human beings, we have a lot of resistance to change in general. We like things to stay the same. And there are times where, it's like we were saying, worry is a way to use your time. And there are better ways to use your time. But better ways to use our time would mean creating change. Gee, if I took all the time that I worry into taking better care of my health or taking better care of my business or taking better care of my relationships, I might mess with the status quo. I should go worry about something.
Right.
And stay safely in my comfort zone.
Right. Well, the anxiety is kind of a security blanket. And this is one of the things that I've noticed with the tapping session, because tapping is such a unique thing. Like our listeners right now could be tapping about anything that comes up in their heads. And I've never met a single person who said it didn't work for them. It works, but some people just don't like to pursue it. They're like, yeah, that works. And next, it's like yesterday's news. You know what I mean? I like the analogy when we spoke the last time about how tapping is like brushing your teeth every single day. It's internal hygiene for our bodies.
Yeah, it's energy hygiene. Well, and again, since because there's a resistance to change, if you come along and say, hey, I can teach you this simple technique that can help you change your life, it's like, stay away. Get away from me.
Yeah.
And especially because tapping looks a little strange, it makes it easier for people to say, "Oh, that's stupid. That doesn't work." And I see it on the internet. People, and they hear about tapping, it's like, "Oh, that's stupid. It doesn't work." It's like, what is that based on? We have research showing that it works. We have thousands of testimonials. We have people, at the highest levels of achievement in all kinds of different fields, including professional athletes who are using tapping because they find it works. So someone comes along, takes one look at it, and says, "That's stupid. It doesn't work." It's like that's an opinion, not fact.
That's an interesting thing that I was not aware of. So professional athletes use this, and I mean, you've had people at upper echelons of business use this technique. Do they share? Like, my question about that is, do they share it? Like with the athletes, do they tap about like their performances or their overall careers, or like what?
All kinds of different things, because everything is connected. So sometimes it's about their athletic performance. Sometimes it's about stuff going on in their personal lives that can bleed over into interrupting their performance. And that's true of musicians and actors and lawyers and
clerks
doctors.
At the grocery store. Everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that. I saw this lady that did a video. She was at a Walmart. It was right at Christmas time, and this young kid was just fumbling and messing up, and the lady in front of her just lost her temper and started screaming and yelling at the guy, and he just broke down. He was like 19, 20 years old. And so she stepped up and said, "Hey, stop badgering this guy." And the guy came around and hugged her. It turns out he had lost his mother that morning. So people make assumptions about why we perform ill in our simple menial tasks that really, there's a level of compassion, I think, when we start tapping and calming ourselves down, that we can actually share with other people.
Absolutely. We got so caught up in our stuff, and we make everything personal. We make everything mean something about ourselves. So, when we calm ourselves down and we start to remember, our self-esteem comes back, because we start to remember, hey, you know what? I'm actually awesome.
Right.
I'm a magnificent child of the universe. And we do the best we can in every given situation. It's like this guy fumbling. It's not like he's deciding, you know what? I could do this really well. I could operate smoothly right now, but I just feel like fumbling right. And at the same time, the lady who lost her temper, it's not like she was in a good place and decided, you know what? I think I'm just going to yell at this guy. She likewise, she may have lost her mother that morning. Who knows what happened that caused her. So we can look at both sides in any interaction, and folks are doing the best they can. That's why, I'm putting it out there to get the tapping, so we can calm ourselves down and go, okay, wait a minute. I envision a day when world leaders come to summit meetings and they're tapping because they're clearing their ego.
Wouldn't that be great?
And we could actually resolve issues, but people get so uptight, oh, you're not being fair, and I'm taking that personally, and this and that, and so I'm going to stand my ground, and nothing's going to happen. Even though we see this in politics, all of there are Republicans in Congress who have said that their main job is to make sure that Obama fails. It's like, I thought your first job was to take care of the American people.
Right, exactly.
But it's like, even if there's something that would benefit the American people, there are some people who are committed to making it fail just for political gain. It's like, okay, we need to do some tapping here and clear some ego here. And it's on both sides. This is, not to pick out one side or the other. It's just an example of something that I was hearing about recently. But
let me ask you this: how long has tapping been around? When was this discovered? Well,
the form that we do, it was around 1980 that a psychologist named Roger Callahan was working with a woman with a water phobia, and he had been doing traditional psychotherapy on her, and he had been taking a class in acupressure and learning about the meridian system. And she said that the fear of water came up, it presented itself mainly as a knot in her stomach. And he said, well, you know what? There's this acupuncture, there's a point under the eyebrow, under the eye. If you tap on your cheekbone, that helps the stomach meridian. Let's tap on that and see if we can't do something about the knot in your stomach. And he just tapped there for a moment, and her water phobia disappeared.
Wow.
And she went running down to the swimming pool, splashing water in her face, and just felt no phobia. Now, we don't usually experience those kind of 1-minute wonders, but they do happen. It tends to be more gradual, but still, it's this common effect. So he realized that this the meridian system that had primarily been used for physical ailments had psychological benefits as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense because we're one complete being. We're not. That's my objection with Western medicine is it takes our emotions and our bodies, our bodies and our emotions and our brains, we're all sort of separate pieces, but we're not. Like this idea, like living in the age of fission, this is one of the things I really discuss with people frequently is in the age of fission, it is paramount. It is tantamount. It's like our number one objective is to honor ourselves and build our own self-esteem, because when we love ourselves and build our own self-esteem, we can stand up to any challenge. This is when the human mind gets the most creative. We can develop, I believe that we can develop solutions to these catastrophic events. The reason we haven't had them is we haven't had the courage. The people who are creating the problems don't have the courage to face the issue. So all we get is like kick the can down the road. Even Rolling Stone this morning did an article that said we need to keep Diablo Canyon open because it's green energy. And that is, in my view, nuclear energy is not green in the slightest. It's the filthiest energy there is. Mm. So, for me, like even after I read that, to be honest, I'm like, well, I better do some tapping. For me, it really does kind of balance me out. I'm not talking about just getting silly and giddy, because we do need adults to be adults. We do need adults to pay attention and take action and be responsible. What's happened is, I believe, we live in a culture where people, because of the machines, the television, the internet, I think people have substituted YouTube for television. So it's the same thing, only different. But because of that, the whole signature of it all is to just let us go, oh, you're not capable of managing what we have to deal with. And I think it's very important. This causes most adults a sense of anxiety that they just say, well, I'd rather not pay attention and I'll just check out.
But hey, the Super Bowl is this Sunday, so
that's
who
right.
cares? That's right. That's all we need to focus on right now.
That's right, and we need that Super Bowl party going on. You know what I mean? I personally love the Super Bowl, so
Oh, so I do too.
And I'm a television fan. So
I enjoy all forms of entertainment, including sports. However, it's that it has become. You see how it dominates some people's lives.
Yes.
And they are far more concerned with the Super Bowl than they are with who might be the next president.
Right.
Or what policy things are going on. It's right. And it's because it feels safer. It's like, you know what? Hey, I can tune out, and I can, it's in our own lives, sort of kicking the can down the road. I'll worry about that when I need to worry about it. For right now, I can allow myself to just get it totally swept away in sports fever or whatever it might be. And again, not because we're bad or stupid. We've learned to do this. We're programmed, and we are programmed, by our society, by our parents and our family and friends, but also by the media. The media tells you, oh, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Look at this. Look at this bright, shiny object. Get excited about this. Don't worry about this stuff. We'll take care of all that. And as we tap, we allow ourselves to, we get our priorities straight too. And that doesn't mean, then I won't enjoy the Super Bowl. Not at all. You might enjoy it even more because you don't
have all that anxiety. So that kind of leads me to the next thing that I wanted to ask you about. How does tapping interact with medication? I had a friend of mine who refuses to tap because she doesn't want to mess up her psychotherapy drugs.
Yeah, I can't see
I told her I did not believe it would interact negatively at all because it's all just a system in your body.
Yeah, I can't see how doing the tapping would make anything worse. It may improve your overall system such that the medication you're taking now is too much, And I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I'm not. I know of people who have been able to decrease or remove medication through tapping, but they did it under the supervision of the doctor. It's not just, hey, I tapped, I feel better, I'm just going to throw away my Prozac or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, you do it with a doctor, but there are definitely many cases that people have talked about where they've been able to reduce their medication because their body is naturally doing the things that they were relying on drugs to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that yes, you may have to moderate your medication if you improve that. Then, it wouldn't have a negative effect.
This is one of the things also about tapping is that people expect an instant result. They're like, well, that didn't work. They do it once. They're like, well, that didn't work. Well, it's kind of like it's very important to understand that these negative patterns of thought and self-esteem and these negative impressions, we're being bombarded nonstop by almost every energy source that we have going on to make us feel as if we don't matter, our voice doesn't matter. So when you start tapping, I think it's very important for people to realize it's not just a one-stop shop. You know what I mean? It's if you don't get the result you feel like you want, keep tapping.
Yeah, it depends on the result you're going for. I mean, generally, when people start tapping, they do relax at least somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, depending on where you're at, and it depends on how much you tap, you may not feel much. And that's the thing about when we tell the origin story of tapping, with the water phobia wiped out in a matter of moments, then people have these expectations. But, it's like we don't have these expectations of, say, sit-ups. It's not like if you're, 300 pounds and you go and do 3 sit-ups and go, I don't have a six-pack. Sit-ups don't work.
Right.
Or eating healthy. It's not like, if you've been eating a terrible diet of fast food for 20 years, and one day you decide, you know what, I'm not going to do that, and you eat, raw foods for one day. It's not like, wow, I'm suddenly fit and healthy, and I could go run a marathon, and say, well, obviously, healthy eating doesn't work.
Right. Exactly. It is about persistence pays. One of the things that I wanted to discuss with you is this. I recently participated in a money magnet seminar on your website.
Oh, yeah.
It was very interesting. That was a very interesting. We did now. Most of my listeners, I'm sure, probably have not thought about this, but you can actually tap to attract money or change any circumstance in your life, correct?
Yeah. So there's 2 aspects to when we're looking at tapping for money. One is, if people have an interest in the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says that when you're in a really good place, you attract really good things to you, including financial abundance and the opportunity that comes with that. So tapping helps us be in a really good place where we naturally, have that positive vibration. So from an energetic level, in terms of attracting things at a vibration energy level, then it makes sense that the better we feel, the more good things show up. And we attract people and opportunities to us. The other aspect is there are things we can do to improve our financial well-being. It may be changing our career or working differently in our career, being more productive. It may be making better choices about how we spend, how we save, how we invest. These are all things that we could just do, but we don't do them because we resist change. So we stop ourselves. We forget to make appointments. We miss calls. We don't take opportunities. And again, not because we're bad or stupid, but because there's a part of us that's afraid of change. So while most people would say they would love to have more money, unconsciously they want the exact amount of money they have. And that's
you want to know what? That's an interesting thing. When you had us set up our financial goal, our thermostat of how much money we wanted. I put in how much I wanted to earn per year.
Mm-hmm.
before I started the seminar, I really have been so busy. I keep my books up, but I didn't look at my profit and loss for my business. So when I started doing this tapping, it was like, dang, no extra money's coming in. What is wrong? I was like, I even said this to a friend of mine, like, I don't know what's going on with the tapping thing, but man, I've never really experienced such a dry month. Like, this is almost like, how much am I resisting it? So then I went to go do my taxes. Guess what? I earned exactly what my goal was already. So I think that's why the tapping was like, okay, you're already there. You don't need more money. It was such an interesting little journey that I went, wow. But that speaks to exactly the sense of the things that, as you say, the things you don't do. There's things that I could have done to make that tapping session more effective, perhaps. But, part of what we do is we tell ourselves these stories because we're living in such a constant state of anxiety. We forget to really appreciate the goodness that we currently have in our lives. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about tapping is tapping frees you up from that circle, that dark circle that we seem to be spinning in all the time,
When we're in a state of fear and anxiety, our mind kind of shuts down to focus only on, how do I take care of myself? How do I survive in this moment? And we miss a lot. So as we do the tapping and we allow ourselves to think more creatively, thinking from the prefrontal cortex, we start to see opportunities. We start to have greater freedom. I like to say that emotional freedom is the freedom to make better choices. So we can make better choices about what we eat. We can make better choices about how we spend. We can make better choices about how we function in our jobs. We can make better choices in our relationships.
And I think we can actually make better choices about the information that comes into our brains. Like, I really believe part of why we're living in the age of fission is we have lived since they discovered the nuclear age. We really did not question anything. We just took it all in and believed whatever lies the people that have created this mess wanted to tell us. And I think for myself, like my critical thinking, like this thing with the Zika virus, I don't for a second believe it was caused by mosquitoes at all. I think it is caused by uranium mining. And they can say whatever they want, but they're causing a lot of fear and anxiety among people on this issue.
Right.
So that's their point, mission accomplished. And, for me, I just refuse to participate with that. That's why I love tapping. I'm an extreme proponent of tapping because it's the one thing we can do to take back our emotional well-being.
Yeah, it gets us out of that place of being in a state of fear and anxiety where we're more easily manipulated. And, even when I talk about that, like the media that wants us to be in a state of fear or the politicians who want us to be in a state of fear, it's not because they're evil. It's just that they have programming that tells them that this is what they need and that they have to do whatever it takes, and they, we believe what we believe. And so it's like the story of the people at Walmart with freaking out and breaking down. Given their circumstances, they were doing the best they could. So if we as we tap and, clear the threat that we feel, we can come from a place of people are doing the best they can. When we're on the freeway and someone cuts us off, we get all upset because we're sure that person was just waiting for us to come along so they could cut in front of us because it was a personal vendetta.
Right. Well, look, how do you cope with me? I'll be honest. I'll just name names. Like a guy like Bill Gates. I just think I have a really horrible esteem of this man because the Moms of St. Louis. He owns a third of the nuclear dump site in Westlake landfill. He's a primary shareholder for them. The Moms of St. Louis wrote him a letter 5 years ago or 3 years ago and said, "Hey, we know you're the primary shareholder. Can you help us relocate? Our children are getting sick and cancer." And this guy wrote him back and said, "No, it's not that." For me, I'm sort of stuck on my anger with this one. How do you release that? Like, how do I just justify this guy who is, in my view, an evil human being?
Well, keep tapping here.
Yeah, I will start. I will do that. I'm tapping on the collarbone area. How about that?
I don't think there are evil human beings. I think that there are people who are confused. There are people who misunderstand things, who may not know what's going on. And people will say, "What about Hitler? Hitler was mentally ill."
Right.
This is a guy who is, so.
Well, wouldn't you say that they're all sort of mentally ill with power and greed, like the Bush crime family? They're obviously mentally ill, in my view. That's unfortunately, their mental illness is in the public purview.
Well, it's funny how we human beings keep putting mentally ill people in power. It's
That's true. I hadn't actually thought of that.
It could be argued that anybody who would actually seek the job of the presidency must be slightly mentally ill.
Yeah, no doubt.
Someone on Facebook once said, "Brad Yates for president." I said, "Do you hate me? Why would you wish that on me?"
Right, exactly. Thank you, but no.
So there's stuff going on. People, we only know what we know, and so some people we have different information than other people have, and we also get into a place of being sure that our information is right. Most of us have had things where we were sure that we were right, and
not so much, yeah.
And there is, and then we find out, oh, we're mistaken. What was it? My daughter was in class the other day, and the teacher had said something about, had asked some question about coastal cities, and my daughter said something about being on the Gulf of Mexico. And a student in the class turned around and said, "The teacher asked about cities in America, not in Mexico." And my daughter said, "Okay, let me tell you the states and the American states that are on the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Arkansas, Louisiana, Florida, Texas." And this girl had to realize, oh, so there are times that we get very up in arms and insist that we're right, and then we later find out that we're mistaken. So tapping helps us because there are times we will refuse to hear that. This girl could have easily, come up with excuses or something, but we will often refuse to hear what the truth because we don't want to be wrong. We hate being wrong. We love to be right. And we will insist that we're right, even in the face of overwhelming information.
That sounds like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. That's exactly what they're doing. Like, that's their MO. Like, that's why we continue to hear that nuclear power is green. Nuclear power is far from green. Uranium trailings, the mining, the transporting of this information, none of it is green, none of it. But they are absolutely insisting that they're right.
And there's no such thing as climate change.
Right. And that the whole nuclear problem is the solution to climate change, where, in my view, from everything I've seen, it actually is exacerbating climate change off the charts because all these nuclear power plants are falling apart. So as adults, we have some pretty serious issues that we must face and be responsible. And this is why I think it's very pertinent and extremely important for us to learn tapping, and actually not just learn tapping, but do tapping.
To do it on a daily basis.
Yes, every day.
At least clear that stress out because it builds up to the point that, we hear something, especially in this age of internet where, we're on Facebook and Twitter and people say things that are just fabricated. They make things up, and we get all upset, thinking that it's thinking, "Oh my goodness, can you believe that so and so said this?" It's like, but they didn't.
Right.
Somebody just wrote that and said they said it.
Right.
And so so the stress builds up, and we get upset about all these things. We're upset about so many things, and then something happens in our lives, and we just freak out at Walmart over somebody.
Right.
And sometimes we do harm.
Yes. And the interesting thing is when I've shared this information with people, they say, well, you can't live your life not being upset. And you can't just like, that's just completely irresponsible to not take it seriously. And I say, it's not that I'm not taking it seriously. I'm just choosing to manage my own emotions.
Absolutely. Here's the thing is people will say you should be upset. You should be freaked out. A lot of people are shooting on us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the bumper sticker that says, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention.
Right.
And so, but it's like, so we want everybody outraged? Outraged people hurt people.
You know what I say?
Everybody outraged.
I say accept your outrage and then learn to manage that emotion, because I'm outraged. This is why I'm on the radio 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's outrageous what's going on.
But you're doing something with it rather than just ranting and going, right. I'm just upset. You're looking for answers. You're trying to make a positive change. So that's the thing is, yes, rather than just getting upset, because if you're just upset, outrage, anger, it's not a bad thing. There are no negative emotions. It's not that we should feel it. It's not that we shouldn't feel it. But it's there for a reason. It's there. It's like a smoke. It's like a smoke detector. Your fire alarm. It's there to let you know that there's something wrong.
Right.
But it's not. But we don't sit there and when the smoke alarm goes off, we just sit there and go, oh yes, fire alarm. Oh, and we just sit there and just be
wait
upset
for the
about
battery to die.
We have to go and find out if there's a fire and then put it out.
Yeah. You take action.
We don't just go and find that there's a fire and go, oh, it's burning. We put it out. So the outrage, we don't just, rather than just sitting there and stewing in the emotions, the tapping can help us move through and go, okay, what do I do with this? The tapping is not to clear anger so that we go, oh, well, the nuclear plants are blowing up, and they're fracking, and they're doing this, and they're spreading disease, and they're doing this. But I'm all happy because I'm tapping, and it's okay. No, it is not that. Because as we tap and we get more in touch with our self-love, we love ourselves more. And when we love ourselves, we want to take care of ourselves. So we do the things that can make the world a better place.
Right.
So it comes from a positive place. So I want to, dispel any fear that tapping just puts us into this Pollyanna state where we just don't care about anything. Far from it. I mean, why would I keep making tapping videos? I put that out there to try to make the world a better place. If I just tap and go, who cares about the world? I'm happy in my own world.
Well, look, this is the thing about tapping is it actually gives you the courage to take action, because when your self-esteem is high, we're in touch with that higher source of energy, the universal love. That's what I call it, And we are here to create the solutions. I believe every person on this planet is here on purpose to help manifest a part of the solution. We have big problems. Not one person, not one organization is going to find it. It's going to take everybody being a whole human being to really affect the change. Our brains are more open to the receptors of finding the solutions, of creating the solutions when we are fully in touch with our true selves of who we really are.
Right. There are so many people out there who could have the answers to so many things, but they're walking around in a state of, oh, I don't matter. I'm not good enough. No one cares what I have to say. And no matter what I do, it's not going to work because the oligarchs have complete control, and that's just the way it is. Yeah. I mean, that's a false statement. Those are false statements, and people at a gut level know that. And that's the thing about tapping is it's like tapping is a tool that helps us face the responsibilities that we have to deal with, that we must deal with in order for our children to survive. Because we're getting to a point, there are some scientists. I know specifically of a guy on YouTube who's I don't know, sociologist or something. He's out there telling these kids, climate change, we're over the edge, the planet is going to die in 50 years, so live your life and don't worry about anything. So I had this kid, 23, 24 years old, call me up and say, what do you think I should, I know he's right. I know we're all, I'm never going to have kids. The world is over. And I'm like, look,
I personally am not willing to lay down in front of the truck and let it run over me. His presumption of his final result is based on the presumption that we have all the solutions out there already.
Yeah.
So there are solutions we haven't even thought of, and it does require for us to feel in tune with these ideas, and tapping breaks away the cloud, the walls of it all. That's how I feel about it.
So, and hopefully folks are still tapping as this ideas come up. I think the one point that he has right is live your life fully, because here's the thing, whether the nuclear stuff is going to get us, or terrorism is going to get us, or cancer is going to get us, or we're going to get hit by a car, we all have a finite amount of time in this particular experience of life. Whether we go on and live another life, I don't know. It's, this particular entity that we know of as ourselves, that has our name, has an expiration date, and it could be tomorrow. So live your life. But here's the thing is, rather than saying, okay, encouraging people into a state of hedonism and, just go out and live for pleasure, the greatest life comes from finding out what our gifts and talents are and sharing that. And so, it's go out and live your life. And that may be that it may be producing great works of art that help other people enjoy what time they have on this planet. It may be that scientific endeavors that change the course of the world and get us and set us aright. So, go out and live your life, but it's not purely in hedonistic pleasures. That's part of it. Enjoying, what's here to offer, stop and smell the roses. But along the way, if you feel called to going, wow, you know what? I don't like this prediction. I want to see what can be done. How do we save the Earth? Or how do we find ways to cultivate life on other planets? Or whatever it might be.
Right. Well, the whole thing is really in a lot of ways, like in our culture, people that are angry are edified because they have the quote right. They feel the courage to speak out. People, one of the things when I started on my YouTube channel doing my own videos and stuff, I was expressing a lot of anger, and I've noticed that on my videos, when I just sat there and rant and rave and yell and scream, those videos get the most hits. People love that. And it's so ironic because really those things express my anger, but then when I process another video where I'm sharing tapping or talking about things in a state where I've actually calmed down, people are like, yeah, okay, move on. And so we have kind of been trained to really, it's a salacious kind of programming that we have here. And this is one of the things, this is why I'm really grateful that you're able to come on my radio show to share. It's not just about living in a Pollyanna state and saying anger has its right place. But the thing is, the room of anger is a small room. You can't live there for very long.
Right. There are a lot of, there are radio personalities who just rant and they have very high ratings.
Right.
Because it gives people permission to get upset. Mm. And when we feel very powerful when we get upset, because there are certain things that we are afraid to do that we won't do until we get angry enough. It's like, if our kids aren't cleaning their rooms and we wait until we're so angry and then we yell at them.
Right.
Because it's like, well, we won't take action until we get so angry. And so that's why one of the reasons we like to get angry is it makes us feel powerful, because we take action that we normally are too afraid to take. Now, if we're tapping and we clear the fear, then we're going to take those actions in a much healthier way.
Right.
And the ranting, yes, the thing is that people get upset, and so they sit at home and they listen to the radio show and they go, yeah, he's right, I'm so upset. But they don't do anything to change anything.
Right.
They just get upset. And here's the thing, and keep tapping, folks, that's bad for your body.
Yeah, it is.
Ranting is, you want to make yourself susceptible to disease, get on a ranting binge.
Yeah.
It's just, it compromises your immune system. You feel more powerful, but you're actually weaker. Mm-hmm. And you're weaker mentally because you'll fall for anything. Right. The more upset we get, the easier it is for us to be manipulated. So, as we tap and we clear it and we go, what do I really want to do here? And it definitely is not a thing of, well, we just sit back and we don't care about anything.
Yeah.
We definitely want to make the difference we can make and live our lives more fully, because we feel more self-love, and we want to enjoy life. We want to take care of ourselves, and we also we feel more love towards others, and we want to do good for others as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're here for. Do good and be good, right? So and the issue of what's good, that's another whole conversation. But the thing is, we can go by our internal gauge. And I grew up in a very abusive household, so I learned a lot about anger as a child. And one of the things that I know for a fact is staying angry only hurts the people around you and hurts yourself. Anger is a good tool, but it's not a place to live with.
No. Yeah,
So,
it's a tool. It's an alarm to let you know there's something to take action. But if we don't take any action on it, then we're just sitting there listening to the fire alarm, and it's going to damage our eardrums.
right. So look, Brad, we have just a few minutes left. Wow, this hour has gone by so quickly. Thank you for joining us. I think this is really valuable for our listeners to hear, because many of the people listening to this radio show, are very angry and feel powerless and feel like there's not much they can do. That's why they listen. They're hungry for real information that the mainstream media won't give us. And so we get, on this radio station especially, we get a lot of really valuable information about how we're being lied to, manipulated. The truth comes out. But then we have to cope with those emotions of, oh my God, this is the reality. That's why I think tapping is really a tool for the people who are going to help create solutions. For the people who are paying attention, tapping is a great tool for us.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck in a state of anger and blame, and this is what's wrong, and these people are stupid, and then we don't do anything. And it's interesting what you said about being raised in a house with a lot of anger. A lot of people are, and so that becomes comfortable. It's familiar. And so that's another reason why rant shows can be popular. It's like, oh, it's just like home.
Right, it feels very comfortable.
But not do anything positive.
Right, you're just living in that room of anger.
Yeah.
So we have about a minute and a half. I would like you to share any of your upcoming events and tell us your website again. What's the name of the website?
Okay, so again, thank you. Tapwithbrad.com. And on there you can check on the events page. I do have the Money Magnet class continues on Monday mornings, and then I have some live events coming up in Atlanta and Orlando in March.
Wow.
And some other stuff going on. So,
well, I hope you make it to the Northwest, because I would definitely love to go to one of your seminars. So.
Definitely planning to get back up there. I'm hoping maybe another workshop in Seattle this year.
Well, that's really super awesome. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And, the time that you have with us here has been super valuable, because I know many people, this idea of tapping is something we need to explore, and they're sort of afraid to start doing it because, well, I don't know enough about it. So I'm grateful that you have come here more to explore exactly how it works and what it does and how simple it is for us to take our lives back. That's what's happened, is we have had our sense of well-being has kind of been robbed, and we volunteer to continue to let it be robbed as long as we stay in that state of anger and anxiety.
Yeah. So well, thank you very much for creating this opportunity to where we can share this information. And like I said, there's over 600 videos on YouTube. If people don't know where to start, just go watch a video.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
Brad
which one.
Yates.
Just tap on anything.
Yeah, and actually, I would suggest that people go to your website and participate in these seminars. They're super valuable. So thank you, Brad, for joining us, and I hope that you'll come back and join us in a couple months or something. But put your courage feet on, everybody, and take action. Talk to you